Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. On the broadcast today, Betsy Fretwell joins us. She's the interim CEO of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. Here for the whole show, an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room of the Nevada Builders Alliance. Coverage of the 2025 legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. The Retail Association of Nevada, looking out for business. And by Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
The Nevada Builders Alliance has been protecting the interests of the construction industry for over 50 years. Our programs save members thousands of dollars every year and allow them to provide much-needed benefits to their employees. Our industry also allows Nevada to grow. If you're thinking about a career in the construction industry, reach out. And if you haven't thought of a career in construction, what are you waiting for? We are the Nevada Builders Alliance.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's development company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
It happens. And when it does, there's UMC Quick Care.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, coming to you from the Nevada Builders Alliance in Carson City. We are delighted to welcome back to the program after a long absence, Betsy Fretwell, former city manager of Las Vegas and now the interim CEO of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. Pleasure to have you back on the program.
Thanks, Sam. It's great to be here.
I wanted to start out with a couple of things. One, let's talk about lands bills, because the whole state needs lands bills, but Clark County in particular. And it seems like people back east in Congress have no idea the importance of lands bills. How important is a lands bill for Clark County at this point?
It's critical. We've lost many business opportunities to expand because there's just not sufficient land to be able to handle certain types of development. Obviously, we've done some really incredible work on infill in the meantime, but we don't want to miss out on those opportunities. So our delegation is on top of this. There's several bills that are in the works, some that are focused on releasing land for additional development and conservation. That's one that Senator Cortez Masto and Congresswoman Lee have been partnering on. Congressman Amodei has a bill as well that also addresses critical issues for the state as far as land availability. And then even as soon as this week, on April 9th, Congresswoman Titus's bill about the Horizon Lateral in the Sloan Canyon area, which is a critical infrastructure project for us that will help support development in the Ivanpah Valley, but also just providing redundancy for us in some of our water resource delivery systems, is a vital piece. So there's several pieces of legislation, 6, I believe, that are in the mix in Congress this session. We're watching all of them very closely. And our agency in particular is leaning in pretty heavily to try and help our delegation any way we can to see this bill move forward that would release additional land for future development.
All right, so you brought up Ivanpah, which has been one of my favorite topics for, it seems like 20 years now. It's moving forward. Of course, it's going to be a decade before it comes into reality, maybe even a little bit longer, as an airport. But in addition to the 5,000 acres for the airport, there's 17,000 acres that surround it. And that's ripe for economic development, as we see in both Clark County and Las Vegas at Harry Reid, and in Reno. Economic development for airports is a huge player. What do you see as the potential for the Ivanpah Airport as it moves forward?
Well, I mean, this has been in the works for 20 some years, right? So uh, it's definitely needed. And obviously, there's some development in the area. There's some private in holdings or state in holdings in that area. So it's a new harbinger of where we can go. And that's not the only area. I mean, obviously, you've got the El Dorado Valley. You've got some of the area in the northwest part of the valley between the national security site and the city of Las Vegas and the Paiute areas. And you've also got Apex and beyond, right? So we're fortunate that we have those geographic areas to work with to attract new and different businesses. Infrastructure is the key. I used to say this as the city manager. It's kind of on the cities, it's on the county, it's on the municipalities to really lay out firm infrastructure plans that businesses can hang their hat on. They can make long-term decisions and short-term decisions based on those plans that are in play. The airport is a critical piece of that puzzle. Having those lands available for development over time are going to be critical. The county's been trying to set up infrastructure in a way for governance and land use planning and things along those lines, as well as environmental assessments to make sure that they meet the criteria for the development. I think these are all really critical things. I also believe that we all need to lean in quite a bit more on accelerating as much as we can opportunities in that area. And I know that I'm not the only one that feels that way. So there's a lot of work that's underway to really advance that vision for continued development in and around that new reliever airport.
Well, you know, it was interesting. I spoke with MJ Maynard from the RTC of Southern Nevada a few months ago, and I talked to her about what the potential was for roads. And originally there was conversation going back, as you say, 20 years about light rail between Ivanpah and Las Vegas proper. And she said, there's no money.
I mean, part of it is so there's right of way that is set aside in those bills for this to support this area. That helps a good bit because if you have the right of way and you're not having to do a tremendous amount of acquisition, that can be essential in making these projects go forward. I think, not to speak for MJ, but there's always competing demands. You could talk to Tracy Larkin Tomlinson, she would tell you the same thing. There's competing demands for a limited pool of funding. And, even right now with all of the budget machinations that are going on at the federal level, uh, people are questioning what funds are going to be available for what kinds of projects and when and to what degree. So there's a lot up in the air with the changes in the federal government's trajectory right now. But MJ would probably also tell you that all of that is about prioritization. One of the great things that we have going on in Southern Nevada, and I presume similarly with RTC in Northern Nevada, is that we have a very collaborative planning process that is way ahead of the game. But frankly, there are a lot of needs that need to be met. That's why you see MJ at the legislature advocating for a continuation of FRI, for the fuel revenue indexing program, to be able to continue to help fund some of these critical infrastructure projects in Southern Nevada. So you don't necessarily want to pioneer infrastructure to some degree that you might leave something stranded for a long time and neglect an immediate need. But that's why we have these 5 and 20-year plans so that we can get ahead of the needs and we start to mete out the resources that we have over a reasonable amount of time to be able to perform and deliver the infrastructure in time for the private development, or in this case, public development for the airport, for instance.
I spoke to a leading architect recently in Southern Nevada. When I talked to him about light rail, he said by the time the Ivanpah comes online, there'll be flying taxis. You won't need the light rail.
I worked at Switch for a long time, and one of the things that I worked on was emerging technologies, and drone related technologies are continuing to advance, and their opportunities um, are real, right? I mean, in fact, we had a flying car company come in and meet with us just a few weeks ago. Very interested in Southern Nevada. So I do think there will be technology solutions that come our way. I'm not sure exactly how light rail fits into the long term strategy as it relates to serving that area. But we will have Brightline right in that same area. So we will have train capacity. And one of the bills at the legislature also helps railway capacity and the development of rail spurs. So there's going to be a whole set of transportation solutions that will be brought to bear to help some of these high growth areas that we are looking at, including Ivanpah.
Yeah, and it just seems that with that much acreage, the opportunities for LVGEA are huge to be able to bring in new businesses because, I mean, that's a lot of room.
It's a lot of land, and there's a bill at the legislature that's being considered regarding enabling inland ports. This may be an area where an inland port would fit very well. So there are things like that I think are kind of like puzzle pieces on the puzzle board right now. They're not completely all synced up, but the potential is fantastic, and I'm excited for that potential. And I think this will help us not only make a stronger connection to the south of our valley, but also to create an opportunity to really build out around that airport in a meaningful and responsible way.
Let's talk about the film studios that they're talking about putting into Summerlin and potentially other areas, including Northern Nevada. What's your take on that and the transferable tax credits? Because that seems to me that Tesla, who has done a wonderful job of remaking Northern Nevada, but was making more money on the tax credits than they were selling cars.
It's interesting because our policy committee has met with the proponents of these film studio bills. Uh, this one's kind of a unique one where you've got a major developer supporting this tax credit program with the Howard Hughes Corporation, for instance, with Sony and Warner Brothers. And there's some other opportunities that are being explored by the legislature as it relates to other potential producers of films and other creative materials. Um, w- we're still waiting to get more information about this because when you're building out a tax credit, it does have a direct impact fiscally on the state. Simultaneously, the numbers on the economic impact are pretty massive and on employment massive. I mean, they're projecting somewhere around 15,000 jobs that could be created. That's pretty significant. So this is a very critical policy decision for our state about what verticals we're willing to invest in. And this one's a little bit different in many ways because it requires upfront capital investment by the development company, and then those credits are only achieved if there's actually productions performed. But that doesn't mean that the state doesn't have to set aside the funds if those credits come through. So it's a delicate balance, and I think it's a really important policy conversation for us to have as we move forward. I like the idea of the jobs. I like the idea of the diversification. We just need to make sure that we can pay the bill.
And also, where do these people live? That's another question.
Right. Right. Well, I mean, obviously there would be significant local impact with immediate construction activities over the next 2 to 3 years while they would be building out these studios, which are a prerequisite to the credits, right? So that's a good thing, and we have a pretty robust workforce there. But there would need to be imported talent, and there would need to be talent that would be grown here. So there's some good things about both of those. But we all know that we've got housing issues that we need to address. Affordable housing being a big one. The governor is focusing in on that. You even hear about it at the federal government level. It's been a constant conversation at the Clark County Commission and the local governments over the last several years. Um, Another big regional community issue that needs to be tackled in a meaningful way to try and ensure that there's adequate housing for our workforce here and our families who choose to live here.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back more with Betsy Fretwell. She's with the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. We'll be right back after this timeout.
The trucking industry is the most resilient link in the supply chain, moving 95% of our freight in the Silver State. And while essential, the road isn't always smooth. Supply chain disruptions, rising fuel costs, and unrealistic rules and laws that hamper our ability to serve our customers and country. Our prosperity and every sector of the economy, manufacturing, mining, medicine, and food from farm to table, is tied to trucks. There's nothing without trucking.
A power line is more than a power line. It's maintaining the bottom line for small businesses. It's keeping the assembly line moving for our workforce. For our brightest minds, it's meeting a deadline. It's on the front line with our heroes. And on the sidelines of the biggest games. It's a direct line to our loved ones. And it's a lifeline for the most vulnerable. There's a lot on the line.
Meet Nevada Health Link, Nevada's official health insurance marketplace. Your link to savings, selection, free assistance, and name brand health insurance, where 90% of enrollees lower the cost of their monthly premium. Everyone deserves access to quality health coverage, no matter your income or family size. Visit NevadaHealthLink.com. A few minutes could save you hundreds of dollars per month.
Nevada Health Link. Our plans are made for your plans.
Pro Group Management offers workers' comp services to a growing number of industries. As businesses grow and change with the times, the need for a solid workers' comp program must be flexible and up to date. The evolving nature of regulations can make staying ahead of complex tasks challenging. But Pro Group Management simplifies the work so your industry can move forward and succeed. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And back on Nevada Newsmakers, we continue our conversation with Betsy Fretwell. She's the former city manager of Las Vegas and the interim CEO of the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance. We were talking about economic development and the governor. He's about to drop his position on economic development. What are you hoping for comes from the governor's office on that?
Well, it's been 12, 13 years since this issue of economic development, abatements, and incentives were really considered. I mean, there have been a few tweaks here and there, and I don't mean to diminish those, but things have changed pretty dramatically in a decade. And when those original statutes were developed, we were in the middle of a recession, coming out of it, kind of, and trying to position ourselves for the future. I think that worked pretty well, but now we know there are other things that need to be considered. And my understanding is that the governor's bill will create a little bit more of a carrot approach. Like, you can get better incentives if you do certain things around housing, around workforce, et cetera, so that we're starting to modernize the bill and our approach to incentives to achieve some community goals. I believe that will be really helpful. It also will clean up some language. I mean, we're in kind of an interesting position because right now, the way the language is written, the GoEd board can't say no to a company that makes it to their agenda if they meet the minimum criteria, and they don't necessarily have to meet all the minimum criteria. So, that board needs to have a little more authority, in my opinion, to be able to truly evaluate what comes before them and be able to make some more decisions regarding that. So some of these cleanups, I believe, are really critical, but it will position us to be more competitive. In the research that we've done, we really don't have the same type of opportunities that many other states do, particularly our direct competing metros. And we can't afford to continue to be the flyover state, Sam. We need to update these things, be more competitive. We don't have to be at the other end of the spectrum, by the way. We just need to be more competitive than we are right now, so that when a business makes a decision to come join the Nevada community, to grow their business here, to employ their employees here, to join in and engage in our community by participating in our school system, in our civic activities, and our community activities, take advantage of this incredible state. Um, they make that decision based on their operating costs. So that's number one. If we can't compete on operating costs, then they're not going to come here anyway. But when we are competitive, and we are in many instances on those operating costs, we can meet their needs for land supply and other natural resources that are necessary for their business. Then they're looking at, okay, how do we compare? What is that pot sweetener to get them to say yes to us over somebody else? That's what incentives are about. They are that last little push that gets us over the edge to be able to get that company to say yes to us and no to somebody else. We need that. We need that. It still has to be a responsible program, right? We need accountability. We need good reporting and transparency. At the bottom line, though, we need to have incentives that are important to that business that will make their decision easier when they go to their corporate board and say, we want to move to Nevada. We want to expand in Nevada. This is what they're willing to do with us. This is the right move. We need that answer to be yes.
Story County put forward a bill, SB 69, that would give, and I'm asking you really to put on your former City of Las Vegas manager hat here, to increase the ability of counties and cities to be able to deal with this growth. Your organization has not been supportive of this, and I was curious as to why.
Well, there's a couple things to think about. One, there's a bit of a unique situation and story with Trick and the development of that. We believe that there are solutions to those challenges through a memorandum of understanding with the state, and having more effective communication around that unique district. The statewide application of that is problematic for a lot of reasons. And the way the bill is currently constructed, it would require that all of those agreements be developed prior to development happening. We've already talked on this show about the fact that we're kind of behind on the incentives and the abatement programs from other states. If we layer on another item that requires a shared services agreement before there could even be an application, I think it will be very onerous on those businesses to identify that when they haven't even gotten all the way down the track to make a decision to be here. So that's problematic in and of itself. I think there are other ways to solve for this, in my opinion, through some of the mechanisms that the state has already provided. And similarly, what folks may not really realize is that when there is an application going to GOED for support, the local governments are notified and a part of being made aware of the nuances of those development plans. So the city or county manager are notified. Usually the chair of the board may be notified. It gives those local governments an awareness. But one of the things we're working on is to make sure that we're coordinating as quickly as we can. In fact, we just had a meeting with GOED the other day to include the economic development directors earlier in that process as applications are being developed, so that we have more time for more feedback from the local governments as projects are making their way through the GOED application effort. So we're working on it, and I think it's getting better. I think there are different ways to solve for the Story County problem. And believe me, I know, I mean, you have development and you need public services to support it, and you need the resources to be able to do that. So I don't envy their position, but I do think there are different ways to solve for it.
All right, we'll take another break and we'll be right back.
Traditional handmade basket. Retail is woven into the fabric of life in Nevada. From big box to mom and pop, retail supports our communities in countless ways. Jobs for the disabled, team uniforms for kids, help for the elderly, and so much more. Retail employs over 1 in 10 workers. Retail supports Nevada, and we support retail.
RANNV
NV.org.
Your good times are at Tamarack Casino during the $150,000 Denim and Diamonds giveaways, with cash and free play drawings every Thursday and Saturday, and $30,000 in grand finale giveaways Saturday, May 31st, including a top prize of $20,000 guaranteed. Your good times are at Tamarack Casino.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
For 50 years, Nevada Heating has been keeping people comfortable in their homes. At Nevada Heating, call the Do It Right guys and get the air conditioning back on today. That's the Nevada Heating way. Why sweat for days on end when Nevada Heating can get your air conditioning fixed today? Call us today and we'll fix it today at 323-5585 or schedule us on our website at nevadaheating.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
Back on Nevada Newsmakers with the former city manager for the city of Las Vegas. We've seen 25 years of the Goodmans running Las Vegas. Now Shelley Berkeley. Just a quick thought on this changeover and what it means.
Well, it's a critical transition point for the city. I will say this. The Goodmans stuck to their vision when Oscar was laughed out of town because he said he was going to Manhattanize downtown. I challenge everyone to look downtown and look at the skyscrapers and the high rises that are in downtown Las Vegas now. Kudos to Mayor Oscar and to Mayor Carolyn for seeing that through. Point two, Shelley Berkeley, Mayor Berkeley is going to do an incredible job for our city. I'm excited for her leadership. She knows how to do it. She's leaning into a lot of key issues now, and we're looking forward to her leadership over the next 4 years.
Betsy Fretwell, thank you so much for doing this. Please come back sooner than the gap between your last visit, okay?
Thanks, Sam.
All right, and we'll be right back.
Each day, the Children's Advocacy Alliance partners with leaders, legislators, and families across Nevada to improve children's health, education, economic well-being, and safety. We recognize Nevada will be no better than the state of its children. Be a part of this change. Be a supporter of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. For more information, go to caanv.org.
Carson Valley Inn, it's your place for the good times. Carson Valley Inn.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room of the Nevada Builders Alliance. Coverage of the 2025 legislative session is brought to you by Pro Group Management, Workers' Comp that works for you. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. The Retail Association of Nevada, looking out for business. And by Story County, helping build Nevada's future.
Thanks for watching Nevada Newsmakers come to you from Carson City, from the headquarters of the Nevada Builders Alliance. We'll see you on the next broadcast. Thanks for watching.